Here's how and why I spent over $23,000 on Pokemon cards on a single night. On August 20th, there was word that Walmart would drop the pre-orders for the Mega Evolutions Elite Trainer boxes, priced at $55 each. As of the date of this recording, each of these boxes resell for $95 each, so after shipping and fees, I could probably make around $30 for each box. In other words, an almost guaranteed 55% gain. So the only thing that would make sense in this situation is to buy as many as I can. So here's what I did. Whenever you want to buy limited items online, you have to answer 4 questions. What item you want to buy, obviously, when they're going to release, where they're going to release, and how to actually buy it. And the how section will typically split into 2 other categories, which is with a bot and without a bot. When it comes to most online Pokemon drops, retailers are rarely ever going to be like, hey, we're going to be dropping this set of cards at this time. Effectively, they're shock drops, so they're never announced, and they kind of just do it randomly. It could be at a random 3:23 on a Tuesday afternoon. Therefore, what we have to do is analyze historical drop patterns. In this case, Walmart is one of the more predictable retailers because almost every week, Wednesday at 9 p.m. EST, they usually drop something that's worth going after for both resellers and collectors. So far, we have 2 of the 4 questions answered, but how do we know what item is going to release? Since they don't announce it, this one is a little bit trickier. There's several ways to predict this, but I'm gonna be going over 2 main ways. The first way is throughout any given week, random Pokemon cards are gonna be restocking throughout various retailers like GameStop, Target, Best Buy, etc. Both online and offline. And if we notice there's a specific box or set that's restocking a bit more frequently throughout the week from other retailers, then there's a good chance that Walmart is also going to soon restock that same exact set on their website. The second, more reliable way of figuring out what Walmart is going to restock on a Wednesday is just by looking at their website and seeing what products have newly been loaded up. And especially if they load up the product on a Wednesday, then there's a very good chance that they're going to release that product on the same day. There's many other ways to predict what items are going to drop. However, for this specific instance, Walmart loaded up 2 products on a Wednesday. The Mega Evolutions Gardevoir ETBs and the Mega Evolution Lucario ETBs. So I was getting ready to set up for this release, but if you're botting like I am, I wouldn't set up for this release only to try and buy these 2 boxes, because after all, we never know 100% what is going to drop. Therefore, you should set up your bot in a manner that attempts every profitable box that may or may not release. Therefore, if they drop something that you didn't expect, for example, like the SPCs, which are highly coveted, resells for a ton of money, you will at least be ready. And if you're ready, you have a way higher chance of checking out than someone who just tries to set up on the fly. So far, I've been talking about this like I'm some sort of detective spending hours trying to solve a murder mystery, except it's just buying Pokemon cards. But because of my Discord group, they basically do the heavy lifting as far as the research is concerned. Therefore, this entire drop took me only 3 minutes to set up for, and I'll show you how. Okay, so every Wednesday, you want to go to this channel, Wednesdays Walmart 9 p.m. EST, and at least towards the evening, you want to check to see if there's any updates. So on 8/20, we see that Walmart loaded up these 2 products. So if we scroll down, we see the SKU and the OID of each product, and all we have to do is plug these into the bot. On the left-hand side over here, we already have products that we're already set up for. So all we're gonna do is duplicate one of them. In this case, I'm gonna duplicate the Black Bolt ETB group that I already have set up. Scroll down to where I duplicated it, double click into it, and then I'm just gonna take the SKU of this, paste it in here, and I'm gonna rename the group to what it actually is, just to keep track of everything. So this is the Mega Lucario ETB, and that's about it. And then we just repeat that process for all the other new products that are loaded in. So again, I'm gonna duplicate this, take the SKU over here, paste it here, then rename it so that we know what it is. Mega Gardevoir, I'm just gonna name it Guard. And this one is done. Now, there are instances where you do want to use the OID instead of the SKU and have different settings to this, but for this drop specifically, I'm just going to be using the SKU. And then I'm going to right click on the group, start, and as you can see, it's currently initializing. It's going to take a second to load up, but eventually you want it to say waiting for restock, so that when or if it drops at 9 p.m., then it's gonna automatically pick it up, and then it's automatically gonna try and check it out. We just start all of them before the drop. Now, when they actually drop, the drop itself can last for up to 40 minutes to sometimes even an hour. And realistically, you don't even have to be in front of your computer if you're set up properly. However, it is pretty exhilarating to see the checkouts coming in. So in practice, it's just 5 minutes worth of work. You just set up in the manner that I showed you, and then you turn off the tasks once the drop is over and everything is sold out. The only tedious part is if you've never touched the bot before and you don't have any profiles or account and stuff like that, getting that initial setup ready can take a few days of deep focus, or maybe even a couple of weeks, depending on how much time you spend. But once that's done, typically that's not something you ever have to touch again, and actually going for releases is surprisingly not that big of a time commitment. So on August 20th, when 9 p.m. rolled around, I was able to check out 384 boxes. Part of the reason why this was possible is, number one, it was in stock for a while, and number two, the quantity limit was 12 per checkout. So although my checkout count is only 32, if you multiply that by 12, that's how we arrive at 384, which means I'm projected to make over $11,500 from this one release. One of the most exciting things about botting is just you never know when you're gonna hit it big. And you have a ton of chances because there's a profitable drop that happens almost every day. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be Pokemon cards. They could be sneakers, vinyls, Hot Wheels, or any other collectible. And this night I was blessed with one of those jackpot moments where I'm gonna make a ton of money. And despite this fantastic result, unfortunately, I'm not actually gonna make $11,500. And that's because of something I like to call the error ladder. Once you understand this concept, this is going to significantly increase your chances of checking out anything for MSRP. When was the last time you attempted to check out a high demand limited item online? And the entire process went through smoothly. No errors, you were able to go on the website, check out what you need to, no drama, just no stress, you're good. I go for a lot of drops. For me, this happens maybe once every 50 drops. To summarize, this almost never happens. You're almost always gonna hit an error on your way to checking out, and as a result, you don't end up copying. Now imagine a ladder where every step you take, there's a chance that that step is just gonna break. It's the same thing whenever you're checking out anything from a website with very high traffic, where each step, there's a chance that you're gonna get error at some point in the checkout process. Going to the website, you could get an error. Trying to add a cart, you could get an error. Submitting your payment details, you could get an error. And even if you successfully check out, you could still get canceled. And even if you don't get canceled, your package could get stolen. So let's pretend that in every step of the checkout process, there is a 20% chance that something goes wrong. It's a completely made up number, it's just for illustration purposes. If we put it this way, getting an error is practically an expectation at this point. So as resellers and collectors, our job is to increase the chances that we actually make it to the top. So how do we do that? The easiest way is to climb 2 ladders at the same time instead of just one. And this almost doubles your chances of actually getting a successful checkout. But you do have to do this correctly using different profiles, sometimes different proxies. And even if you don't have a bot, you can still do this. I'm not gonna get into the details exactly how here, but generally speaking, that's why it's important even for non-botters to understand how these anti-bot measures work so that you don't fall into the trap of getting banned or getting your order canceled even though you're innocent. If you're already part of our Discord, go to this video pinned in the announcements channel. The whole thing is going to be explained there. But ultimately, no one is immune to this error ladder, not even me. And that's one of the appeals to using a bot. So if you don't have a bot, maybe you can climb 2 to 5 ladders at the same time. But if you do have a bot, generally speaking, a lot of botters would run 100 accounts and 100 profiles at the same time, effectively meaning they're climbing 100 ladders at the same time. So far, 56% of my orders got canceled, leaving me with only 14 non-canceled checkout, which translates to 168 boxes. I actually expect more of them to get canceled because when it comes to pre-orders from Walmart, they have to verify your payment 2 times instead of 1 time before they actually ship out the product, which results in significantly higher cancel rates. You can think of this as an extra possible cancellation step on the error ladder. But that's the reason why, if you're buying limited items that are profitable, Even if you're not reselling, you should try to get as many as possible to account for these errors and cancellations. So if you want to learn from the best, check out the links in the description. We have a 99.8% customer satisfaction rate. Anyways, how much money do I expect to make from this release? I would say around $3,000 in profit. When I get the packages in, I'm gonna confirm the prices with my bulk buyers, slap on shipping labels to the boxes, and then have them picked up. So in total, including the amount of time I spent actually going for the drop, this would have been around 20 minutes worth of work to make $3,000 from one release, all from the comfort of my own home. And again, there's plenty of releases every week. In fact, it's almost every day. And that's why I think that online reselling is the ultimate side hustle. And it's far from dead. I'll see you in the next one.